Welcome everybody. I've done so many tutorials on WordPress themes, but I realized there is one I haven't gone over, and that is just showing a demo of the different kinds of items in a WordPress theme. First of all, you've probably seen this before if you've ever worked on creating your own themes for WordPress or modifying by creating a child theme. You'll see that every page is made up of PHP files that all go together. Usually you'll have a header, you'll have some kind of a loop, but not always. Well, you're going to have a type of loop, and it could be a loop of one or a loop of many. You get to choose how many that will be when you create your theme. You will have a sidebar, which is also optional and may or may not display on the side. It's up to you how you do it. But that allows you to pull in extra content, search widgets and calendars and other kinds of items that you can put on there that is maybe not central to your main information. And then there's always a footer. Now, to create a WordPress theme, you're always going to have a header and a footer, and then there's going to be a separate file that's going to pull the header in, pull the footer in, possibly the sidebar, and should have a loop. Okay, so let's look at some of the different types of pages you may have. Many times your home page will look something like this index.php. Let's take a look at an actual WordPress theme. So I've gone to this theme called Flatter, and I'm just previewing this theme. And so let me just start over, and I'm just going to click on the main page. This is possibly Index. If I scroll down, you're going to see what they did is they styled the most recent posts, most recent information, and they've created a sort of grid, a three-column grid of the most recent items. And then there's that sidebar. So this is most probably looking at index.php. We don't know for sure, but it probably is. Okay, so that would be index, and this is by default what you're going to see. Normally, if you get a theme like this, you may or may not have this image. You might have to add your own images, or you might add more images, and then it might do one of those scrolling items. I'm not so concerned about the specific details. I want you to know what file, what theme file does what job. So let's go back to this theme. That was Index. And I should link to this particular page on the video. And then one of the things you'll say is you look at what it says here. Alternately, you can specify in the WP admin settings, read, to have the home page be a page you create yourself. So if you don't set the home page to be a specific page, it will just be the most recent post as determined by index.php. But when you choose it to be a page, you're actually going to be using one of two things. You're either going to be using page.php or an original template that basically is a specialized version of page.php. And in that case, and personally, if I were going to create a WordPress site, and I do that on regular occasion, I make a page template for my landing page or my home page, however you want to view it. Now, I want to just point out this flatter right here. This image here is what you normally expect to see on a landing page. And I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back a link here. I'm going to click Return to Themes because I want to show you some examples of some of those landing pages. And you'll notice many times landing pages, the whole point is to get the name out, to get the most important information right at the top. You see that flat commerce. Let's just take a look at it a little bit larger here. Right here, and it's kind of lame here. It says read more, but I imagine buying clothing is probably going to be something like shop or get the latest or whatever, because you're trying to sell clothing, I imagine. But this is just showing you just kind of, it's using the standard theme files that on a normal WordPress site will just have a bunch of random things like read more, and you'll see both a lot of times. And we'll take a look at that in just a moment. So I'm going to go back to the themes list again. So these are all kinds of landing pages. Most likely, these are pages created as special templates, and they're most likely not using the most recent post. They are most likely using page.php converted into a specialized template. I have other tutorials that show how to do that, and I will most likely be posting more as time goes on. So that's index. Let's talk about single. Single.php is for one single post. So let's go back to flat. Let's take a look at it. Let's click on preview. If we go down here, you're going to see a bunch of posts. Most likely, all of these are various posts. Now, I'm going to grab one that's a little bit, hopefully longer. Yeah, HTML. I'm pretty sure that this is a post. And so notice it's longer than what you saw on the home page. Let's go back a link. Homepage is taking the most recent post, and single.php shows you a single post. Most likely, your design for a single post is going to be very similar to your design for a page, and it may actually be identical. And usually what will happen, and this is for desktop views, mobile, I'll talk about that in just a moment. On a desktop view where you got a lot of space, you usually include the sidebar. Remember, I showed you that in the infographic. You can pull in a sidebar. On your homepage template, I don't recommend a sidebar because I think that's noise that you don't need. That's just my philosophy. But you have the option to bring it in or not. But on a single post, on a big screen, you probably are going to want to have that because what are you going to use with all that extra space anyway? So this is your opportunity when they're in a post and they're reading it for them to see other kinds of categories they can do, what's the most recent, so they can get the latest, whatever. And then, of course, don't forget, always at the bottom of every page is the footer. I kind of left that there. One of the things you'll notice on a single is you've got this whole leave a reply. This is something you can turn on or off with WordPress. I'll not go into those details. Let's talk about pages, though. Actually, before I do pages, while I'm on post, I want to kind of point out some other items. Remember, that is single.php. We're going to skip page for now. And let's talk about archive category tag. First of all, archive is talking about you want to look at old posts based on day, month, year, whatever. That's archive. Category, let's go take a look at category. Wrong one. Category is something along the lines of categories right here. So let's look at uncategorized, for example. If they don't have a category, they're uncategorized. And this is actually its own sort of category, the category without a category. But you'll notice there's a lot of them that are uncategorized. And then you might see a category here, so one grandchild category, whatever. So, and the other thing is, by the way, so this idea of archive category tag is also the same for search. And in fact, the whole point here is if you don't have an archive file, it goes to index.php, which is that first one we saw there. So what's nice is if you style index, you style single, and you style page, you actually have all the layout you need. It'll take care of everything else. If you don't, and you forget to do single, or if you get to do page, I think it just defaults to index. But it's always a good idea to make your design decisions based on the three items that I've already mentioned. Your home page should be unique in its styling. Index, archive, category, tag. These are all where you have multiple posts that you're organizing in some way because of a word you searched for, a tag you clicked on, a category you're looking for, or just the most recent. They're all going to be working the same way. And if you style index, you'll have all of those covered. If you choose to style archive or category or tag uniquely, then you got to go to those particular files to do so. The last thing I want to talk about is page, which I've already sort of talked about. I talked about templates, right? Well, let's just go ahead and take a look at a given page. And unfortunately, the way this is set up, the menu doesn't work. So I'm going to look for a page. We're going to look at parent page. And here is an example of a page. So we got a lot of content on here. A page is normally static. But in WordPress, you know you can create pages and you can create posts. Posts are designed to be shorter, related to a recent trend. You're not going to maybe spend as long time on there. You should be posting more recent posts so that there's always new content. But a page is something that's just going to stay there for a while that you may or may not edit. Things like About Us or a contact page. Things that are always going to pretty much have the same content for a while that you may not touch. That would be what I would use a page for. Or in the case of what I mentioned with templates, which is creating a template from page.php to create your page template and create an original style. So to recap, if it were me and I were going to design a minimalist theme, I wanted to have a theme that I wanted to publish or I was going to make it for a client, I would make sure I include a landing page, which is a special template. I would include obviously I would style index.php, I would style single.php, and I would style page.php. And most likely single and page may actually be identical styles, in which case that's fine. So at a minimum, I recommend you do 3 different layouts and you design for them. Homepage, index, single, and possibly page if you want it to look different. Thanks for watching, and I hope now you kind of have an idea as to what each of these pages do and how you will put them together when you create a theme.